Welcome to another episode of Comedy Wham Presents with me, your host, Valerie, and sometime co-hosts Miss Purrington and Mookie. Those are my cats. ComedyWham.com is your place to go for features about all Austin comedy. In addition to podcasts, Comedy Wham brings you articles, album reviews, our advice column, Rochelle Takes on Comedy, our upcoming festivals page listing festivals from across the country and the world, and our 2023 Cap City Comedy Club FPIA contest page is live posting results as they happen. We're best known for our events page for live comedy shows in Austin, Houston, and DFW, where 100% of the entries you see come from comics and producers. If you want your show featured on the calendar, click Submit a Show from the top of our homepage or events page to complete the short survey. It's free and easy. Tag us on your Instagram stories and we'll share your show promo to our Instagram followers. Want to support these resources that we provide? You can donate to Comedy Wham on PayPal, Venmo, or even Patreon. Click the Support CW icon on our homepage to see the ways that you can help us. Now back to our podcast. Launched in 2016, the Podcast Project brings you funny people and their stories. As a fan, I like to delve into a comic's background and motivations, and will usually take a detour along the way. Consider the interview a way for you to get to know the folks that make the comedy scene as fascinating off stage as it is on stage. And if you like this podcast, please rate and review us. Today, we are talking to somebody who is based in Los Angeles, and she's trained at Second City in Chicago, among many places that she's trained. She is a 2022 Just for Laughs New Faces comic. You might have seen her Comedy Central featured set recently, or maybe you've seen her on BET Channel's Games People Play, or maybe like me, you've seen her as a guest star on Abbott Elementary. She comes to us because she is getting an August release of her LMAOF, which is OnlyFans, everybody. Her Los Angeles episode is out this August, as I mentioned, and LMAOF features the up-and-coming comedians of OnlyFans TV and is traveled across the country. I know Austin has a couple of episodes, Chicago has some, New York, and of course, the Los Angeles edition. And now Comedy Wham presents our guest, Brandi Denise.
Hello.
Thank you for sitting through that long introduction.
No, it's fine. It's great.
You're based in LA, but you did a lot of training in Chicago.
I did.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, just tell us. I'm actually planning a trip to Chicago, and I used to live in Chicago for about 10 years.
Okay.
So I'm a big fan of Second City as a fan, as an audience member. So it's always cool when I hear somebody that's, trained there. But you performed all over Chicago.
Yeah, I did. I started in Florida, but I moved to Chicago in 2011. I was there for 7 years before I moved to LA. So I went to Second City. I was in the conservatory. I went to a couple of other improv schools out there as well. But like Chicago is really where I got like my comedy wings in terms of like stand-up. I did improv just to get better at stand-up. And obviously it's like helped in other parts of my career, such as acting. But Chicago's my favorite city. I'll be there again in September, headlining the Comedy Bar, September 15th through the 17th. And so
Nice.
I like Chicago.
Yeah, so a great town.
Yeah.
Let me actually, that was just a little bit of a teaser of questions. I actually do have an official icebreaker question, and that is one word to describe your past.
Meaningful. I'll use meaningful.
Why do you think you chose that word?
I feel like everything, all the mistakes, all the wins, been a lot. They brought me to where I'm at right now. So, I don't feel like anything happens to you. Everything happens for you.
Ooh, very insightful. I almost thought that part of the story for that, behind that word, was and you have a bit that's anybody can go catch on your YouTube channel or wherever, where you talk about being a social worker. you were a comic. Did you find that work meaningful while you were doing it?
Yeah, it was definitely like a job where I felt like I was helping, giving back and helping people. Also, jobs like that, much like comedy, you know, you're giving a lot. It's a lot of energy, like a lot of energy that you're absorbing from others.
Yeah.
So I went to school to study political science. I landed with the state of Illinois, and I'm very grateful for that job and those experiences and the people I met. Some of the people I work with are still very, very close to me till this day. And so I was very grateful for that experience, but also it like kind of helped me just have a sustainable like lifestyle while I pursue comedy at night. And so once I got to a point where I was able to, eat off of comedy, I let that job go. And I just feel like life is different chapters. And it was a chapter that I'm very fortunate for. Also, shout out to all the people who do that work because it's not easy.
No, I mean, just from depictions on TV, which, of course, TV is not all what you see is true, but that's a very difficult job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not enough resources, too big of a caseload.
Mm-hmm.
That's angel's work.
Yes, it is. It's one of those jobs where I feel like even with comedy, it's like you go in, you do as much as you can, and then you leave it on the stage. And you just come back the next day and revisit what you left.
Yeah. You mentioned that you went to college for political science. Did you well, actually, let me ask this first. What role did comedy have in your life growing up?
I always I grew up in a military family.
Ah,
And so we moved around a lot, and I realized that at a young age, moving around a lot, that being funny kind of helped me reacclimate myself in new environments.
hmm.
And so moving from school to school or state to state or any situation like that, for a lot of kids, it'll be hard to make friends. And I was just like, oh, if I'm funny, it's like easier to make friends. And definitely that. And then I think when I got to around middle school, I started to discover comedy, but I didn't know what it was. Like I remember getting my hands on like Adam Sandler's albums when I was like in high school.
Huh.
And I didn't know that it was like parody comedy back then. But I know I used to come home from school and I would write parody songs. And
Well,
this was like at the age of 13, but I didn't know I was writing comedy, And so I think like just being who I was, exploring the things that I've explored, it was like, oh, I've been into comedy for a very long time. I wasn't aware of that until I got older and I actually pursued it.
so even through high school and college, you just were a fan of comedy.
Yeah, but it wasn't like I would sit and watch stand up. I also read like Wanda Sykes books, Chelsea Handler books. It was just things that I was naturally drawn to, but it wasn't like I don't remember watching a lot of stand up, but I was drawn to comedians and their other creative outlets.
Yeah, interesting. I interviewed a comic once who said when they started realizing that they wanted to perform comedy, they spent a lot of their time not watching stand-up specials, but reading the autobiographies that the would write because they got some great insights from doing that. So that's kind of cool. And Wanda Sykes is just amazing. I religiously watch any new special that she has.
Absolutely.
She's just amazing.
Absolutely.
So when did the light strike for you that maybe you'd like to perform this thing that you've had this kind of sideways on the side relationship with?
I think my parents were very encouraging of doing anything. So growing up, I did a lot of things. I was in pageants. I did poetry. I hosted talent shows. I sang. So I was always on stage, gymnastics. I was always on stage, but I was never really good at a lot of it. I was just like, okay. And then when I got to college, just a lot of people were like, you should be a stand-up comedian, which, I'm like 19, 20. I didn't know it was a real job.
Yeah.
So I think my final year in college, my senior year, I went to a comedy show, and I remember sitting at the table and just kind of like tagging the comedians, like tagging his joke, like every joke. But I was doing it at the table with the people around me, so they were laughing a lot. Obvious, like as a comedian now, I would hate if somebody did that to me. But I was like at the table killing, and so after the show, they're like, "Yo, she is funny," and he's like, "Yeah, everybody want to be a comedian when they see you doing comedy." And then I was like, "Oh, this is a job." I just was like, "Oh, I could do what he does." And then I had one semester left of school. I said I wasn't going to do it until I got my degree. I was the first person in my family to get a college degree. And so I got my degree, and like 2 weeks later, I was on stage at the Comedy Zone in Tallahassee, Florida.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
And
I didn't stop. I never stopped. I literally never stopped.
did you have any clue about, what it meant to go on stage that first night?
I had practiced my set so much. I actually still have my first set. It's cringeworthy, but I knew I had a perspective, but I didn't bomb. I have a lot of personality, so it's like even if the jokes don't hit, the personality will carry it over.
Sure.
And so yeah, I didn't know like, oh, I'm gonna be doing this for the next 10 to 12 years. I didn't think that. I was just like, oh, let me try this. But also I don't like not doing well at things. And so if I start something, I'm like, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist. I'm like, yeah, I gotta do this right.
Yeah. Yeah. So Tallahassee for how long?
I was in Tallahassee for a year after I graduated, and then I moved to Chicago, and then I was in Chicago for 7, and I've been out here for 5. So it's like around 12.
Yeah. And since you do have that knack of the, you tag things just kind of as a natural reaction to hearing comedy, and you had the personality. Were you starting to get momentum after that 1 year in Tallahassee?
I knew that I knew that I would be good. I wasn't like the best, but I knew that I would be good. And then like just kind of gauging the audience reactions. I just felt like I kept getting better and better. And then I was like, oh, okay, something I want to take serious. And so I knew I wasn't going to stay in Tallahassee because I'd already gotten my degree. I wasn't going back home. That wasn't an option, just because I didn't want to go back home. But I was like, okay, well, I'm either going to go to New York, Chicago, or LA. And I remember reading that Conan O'Brien said like Chicago's where you go to get your comedy wings. And I kind of took that and ran with it because I didn't want to go to LA and get lost in the shuffle because I was so new. And sure. I didn't want to go to New York just because I'm not a huge fan of New York. It's too busy. So yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go to Chicago. I'm gonna take these comedy writing classes, take these comedy improv classes, and just get on stage. And like, yeah, I went to Chicago, and like after years and years, I was like, started headlining shows, I was in a comedy musical. I was the lead of a comedy musical. I got into the conservatory, my first audition, which is like not normal. And then this opportunity started coming in. And then I feel like in Chicago, I kind of reached my ceiling. And I feel like because I came from a military background, I was really used to relocating and reestablishing myself in new places. So a lot of people go somewhere like a Chicago and be like the big fish in Chicago, which is great. But it was like, no, it's something bigger than Chicago. And so once I started once I got into all the clubs in Chicago, like Jamie Masada passed me at the Laugh Factory in Chicago. I want to say like in 2000, maybe 15. And I was like, okay, I'm past the Laugh Factory. So I know that if I go to another city, I can get into the Laugh Factory. So I just started like plugging all the dots. Like I come from, college, and then I worked for the government. So I feel like that really helped me be able to like figure out like the dots and like how to get to where I needed to go next, like in terms of like building up in a business, like if you're working for a company and it's like, okay, well, I work in New York, but I know that like all the top executives work in Japan, then I'm going to relocate to Japan and figure it out. And so I came out to LA after Chicago, and like my first year was really good. I had a lot of people vouching for me, and I didn't come to Chicago like, excuse me. I didn't come to Chicago like, I didn't come to LA as an open micer.
Mhm.
A lot of people move to a new city and they start from the bottom. I came in very confident, probably overly confident. But I was like, I would go to shows and like, I'm funny, put me on your show. So I definitely have and it's almost like people want to challenge it. Like, oh, she has a lot of confidence. Let's just see, you know? And so, what I want to say? It's like, fake it till you make it, really. So I came out here very confident, and things started moving pretty good. I came out here, started, 6 mics a week, doing the clubs. I was doing the improv, I was doing Laugh Factory. I was able to get up on some of like the coveted spots just from networking and people knowing me from Chicago. Chicago is a very tight-knit comedy group.
Yeah.
And so if you go any other cities, they like look out for you there. And so I was a part of that family. And a lot of people, like I said, vouched for me. And my first year I got a manager. And then like, I think first year and a half, I got like my first TV role. It was just like all very organic. It all came from stand-up.
Yeah.
I wasn't like, oh, I want to move to LA and be an actress. Like, no, they saw me doing stand-up and was like, do you want to audition?
Oh, wow. Because that was one of my questions is, so was part of the LA picture is to become an actress, or at least
No, it was not. And up until, I think I had been like maybe on like 4 or 5 TV shows before I started saying I'm an actress. Everybody was like, well, you're a comedian. I'm like, I'm not an actress. I'm a comedian. They just put me on TV. Like, stop saying that. It's like putting pressure on me. I had never taken acting classes. I was like, I'm not an actress. Once I got my series regular and I had to relocate and like film like 10 episodes, I'm on set every day. I was like, okay, I'm an actress. This is real work. So I was like, yeah, I'm an actress now.
Given how organic and quickly things seem to move once you got to LA, how do you joked the fake it till you make it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do you pinch yourself sometimes that these things are landing for you, that you seem goal oriented for sure, but does it surprise you? Did it surprise you that these things were landing?
I don't think so. It didn't surprise me.
Yeah.
And even the things that are coming, they don't surprise me. I don't talk about the things that I want often, but my friends like to call me a master manifester. I like write a lot of stuff down and like it's crazy. So I'll give you like a quick it's not quick, but when I did comedy for a year in Tallahassee, I knew I wanted to go to Second City. I'm a researcher. I research everything to the 10th degree, very analytical, break it down, figure out how to get there, write all the routes.
Love it.
So it's not just talent. You got to put the work in. And so I realized the Second City had a outreach program for diversity students sponsored through Puma. So I was like, I'm gonna get that scholarship so I can go move to Chicago, get a job, go to Second City for free, because I didn't know how much it was, but I was like, I don't want to pay. And so I did this sketch. I remember I actually shot it in George Clinton's studio.
Wow.
Which was crazy because I was like a friend of his videographer, and he's like, oh, George Clinton thinks you're funny. Like, he said you could just studio for whenever. And I shot this sketch called Puma Pat, and my mom helped me. We went to Michael's, we got this fabric. I like created this whole like Pat suit, and I was a Puma. Like in the interview, I was like trying to like be the new Puma on the shoe. So I like personified a Puma on the side of a Puma shoe. So I sent it to Second City, and I like literally told everybody like, yeah, I'm moving to Chicago. I got the scholarship. Nobody told me I got shit. So in my head, I'm like, that was top tier. I know I got it. Like little delusional at times. And so packed up my car, moved to Chicago, $800, didn't have a job. My mom helped me drive up there. I get to Second City, I get to Chicago, and they tell me I didn't get it.
Uh-oh.
It's like, fine. I was like, well, I'm here. I'm probably still gonna figure it out. But I go to Second City. I go up there and I'm like, hey, can I speak to the person over the diversity and outreach program, which is Deanna Griffins? And they're like, oh, she's not here. Like, do you have a question? I was like, yeah, I applied for the outreach program, and I just like wanted to know why I didn't get it. They're like, who are you? Or what? Like, and so they're like, what's your name? So the guy comes back, and it was her assistant at the time. He's a director now out here in LA. And he comes back and he's like, Deanna actually wanted to have 2 people from out of state. It was you from Florida and a girl from LA, but Puma didn't give them enough money to fly people in this year. He's like, we wish you had known that you were in Chicago. And I was like, so that let me know, like, I was supposed to get it. And so he was like, but she wants to meet with you anyway. She has an internship. So I set up a meeting with her. I get an internship at Second City. And so I'm her intern, and she's over like mainstay. She's over everything.
Yeah.
And so that way I met like Chris Red. He put me on my first improv group, and like I met a bunch of people, but it was like at that time I wasn't I was taking classes, but they were on stage performing. So I'm like literally like, you know, giving them the light, making sure the drinks are set up for auditions, giving them sides, like passing out fruit and shit. And so from there, I like started to establish my network. I definitely feel like people sometimes think they're above learning, and sometimes you might be a little ahead of the learning curve. But for me, I'm never beyond like networking. So even when I moved to LA, yeah, I have been through Second City, Conservatory, IO, and Annoyance. Like that's 3 improv schools. I started at level 1 at UCB just to network, to meet people who were doing the things that I wanted to do, to be in those arenas. And so I'm just always putting myself in spaces where I feel like I can grow and learn and like go to the next level. And it's just like, I feel like if it feels good, it'll work out. And so.
Yeah. It's such a valuable lesson for comics that are coming up, that, you know, yes, there's a level of things being organic, but you do have to be smart about what the reality really is out there. So it's really super smart to network, really bold and confident to just, you know, knock at the door of Second City and say, hey, can I talk to the person in charge of this program? Because you make a strong impression. And when you have the goods to back it up,
Right.
then they're like, oh man, yeah, we can't ignore this person. They're too talented. They know their shit. They've done homework. So yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. I'm so curious because of this personality trait that you have, like really researching and looking into things. Is whoever the parent was that was in the military, were they like high up in the command chain, and so they would just basically boss people around, and so you kind of learned to be assertive and strong in that way?
My mother is very assertive and very she's very assertive. She's very go with the flow, but she's definitely assertive. My mother told me, I don't know when she told me this, but she told me this, and it's always stuck with me. She said, you can ask anyone anything, and all they could tell you is no. And I've taken that everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. And so even on stage with me, I was performing tonight at Comedy Magic, or last night at Comedy Magic. And one of the comedians said to me, he's like, do you need to get nervous before you go on stage? And I was like, no. And he was like, oh man, I've been doing this for 20 years. I still get nervous. I said, the way I look at it is like, what y'all gonna do? Beat me up?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you go to work and you don't have a great day at work. What y'all gonna do? Fight me? And so it's like, okay, you know, it's gonna go how it's gonna go. I really definitely just believe in like what's for me is for me.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I put the work behind it to make sure as much as I can that it's for me. And if it don't work out, then it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and also I want to add too, like, and I don't say this a lot, but I think I grew up mostly in white environments. And so I always had to work harder to stand out. I always had to work harder to stand out. I always had to be more vocal to be heard. And so I think like it's not unusual for me to like be very like vocal about the things that I want, or even like go harder than the next person. So if we got to do, you know, 10, we got to write 10 pages, I'm gonna write 20. You know what I'm saying? Just because this is like being a Black female just in the world. But then when you add on comedy, it's just so much harder. Like I'm dealing with that now, just even getting into these clubs. But I definitely, you know, my numbers are showing that I'm supposed to be there. So it's like, well, if I got to prove it to you, I'm used to proving things to people. So it's a part of it.
Yeah. In the 12 years that you've been performing comedy, do you think that things are changing for the Black female?
I think so, but I almost want to say so because it's like, we have prominent figures or people who are just cool. Michelle Obama's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Cardi B is cool. It's just like Kamala, you know what I'm saying? And so it's just like the more those women step into the light, I think the more value is seen in the ones who are thriving. And sometimes even when I do shows now, it used to be a whole thing where it's like, oh, we need a female. And I remember I used to like hate when they would put me on a show because they needed a female. And I used to make it my fucking goal to be funnier than every man on that show. So it's not like you don't see me as a female, you see me the funniest.
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? And so I think it's kind of like carrying a chip, but it's also like propelled me forward.
Yeah.
Never just settled in that spot as like a Black female comedian. It's like, oh, I'm not a Black female comedian. I'm your favorite,
Yeah, yeah. In the last couple of years, well, not just couple of years, but with the BET show, Games People Play, you've gotten a lot of attention. And then what did you know about the JFL festival and how big of a deal the New Faces was before you landed it?
So I'll give you an authentic answer. I had auditioned for JFL once or twice in Chicago. I auditioned for it, I think maybe once here. And from my JFL audition, I had agencies interested. I didn't get JFL, but from that audition, from my callback, I signed with a management company. I signed with Brillstein, which landed me on Power and Ghostbook and those things like that. So I just feel like as long as you're in the right environments, you might not get what you're going for, but like once I got that, I was like, well, there's people doing JFL. They never been on TV. I'm on the biggest show right now that's on Stars. I'm 50 Cent is my executive producer. I'm sitting at table reads for 50 Cent. So, whatever the JFL.
Yeah.
And so when JFL came back around, I actually like told my team that I did not want to do it.
Oh.
Yeah, because at this point, I was like, I did Games People Play. I was like, I was on 10 episodes. Like, I'm number 6 on the call sheet. Like, baby, we good,
Yeah.
And so I told them no. They called me, my manager and my agent, Brandi. They called. They like, you should do it. And I was, and for me, it was just like, I'm not gonna give you another opportunity to tell me that I'm not good enough. And they told me I should do it. And I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. I remember dressing up really cute that night. And I remember getting on stage and my first joke was like, oh, give it up for my outfit. I was like, I did not dress up for y'all. I got a date after this. I did my set. And I remember texting my team right after. I said, I'm 99.9% sure that we're going to JFL this year.
Uh-huh.
And that was on the first one, the first audition. And then I did get a call back. But I remember in that moment, it was like, I kind of felt like I kind of left it on the stage. It was like, well, I see who y'all pick and I see what y'all offer. And it's like, I just bought a Mercedes Benz last year. So like, if you're not fucking with me, it's okay. And so like I said, it's that whole thing of like having to prove myself and having to do things on my own, like very grassrooted. And so when I did get it, I was very fortunate. I was really happy to get it, but it also was like a lot of good things came from JFL. I was happy that I got it when I did because I felt like I was ready. Had I gotten it in 2014, it wouldn't have hit the same.
Yeah.
So I was definitely happy that I got it when I did. And since then, the ball's just been rolling on things. And it also was nice too, because, being a Black comedian, I work all the rooms, urban, mainstream. I did the OC. It was fucking, all Republicans in there. I do all the rooms and I feel like I could speak to everyone. And so it definitely felt like, it felt good.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, she's not just a Black comedian. I was the only Black female that they picked for New Faces last year that went in repped. And that felt good because I was always like just doing comedy on the South Side of Chicago. A lot of comedians felt like, oh, they only picking the comedians who like whitewash, or they picking a comedian, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like I'm very much true organic Brandi. I went to a historically Black college. I got Black parents, you know what I'm saying? I grew up in a Black family. And so it felt good. It felt like my voice surpassed the color. And so that was a beautiful thing. I was very fortunate for the experience. And And yeah, I was happy to showcase for them.
Yeah. For whatever it's worth. I've been watching comedy for almost 10 years now, more than 10 years, at the local level, about as long at the national level. And I always think that JFL is, if I could summarize it, it's one of two things, the new faces in particular. One is it's to give a boost to that person that's like right on the cusp of starting to blow up at a national level. And then the second category is the person that you're about to see this person on the national level all the time. Right. They don't need the boost. They're getting there, but this is about to be a household name and you need to know them.
Right.
Sounds like, you didn't need the boost. You are about to blow up at the national level.
I mean, it definitely worked in my favor because, I mean, around that time, I was already like touring. I had already did colleges, and it's like, I'm doing an hour out on the road. You tell me 7 minutes. I got a personal trainer. I got an esthetician. I went and got my teeth fixed. So I'm gonna transform into a bad bitch. I'm like, yeah, put me on stage. Let's go. I'm like, all right, this was y'all want. And so for me, it was like, showcase my stand-up, but also like get in front of these networks and let them know that, like, and then I already had the TV credits behind me, so it's like, yeah, she's official.
Yeah. It's always fun to look at the alumni of the new faces and to see who really is now in hindsight a household name, and that they got the little ribbon or the little trophy, if you will. We have I mentioned it in my intro. We have this local contest. It's held by one of the big clubs in town, and it's called The Funniest Person in Austin. And you can easily count on your hands the number of people that have never won that contest, but who have gone on to do great things. It's like, it's like having a ribbon in your collection. It doesn't mean you're the funniest person or not the funniest person. It's just this contest.
Right. I definitely agree with that. Because I mean, you hear the stories where it's like, oh, I was doing this with 7 celebrities 20 years ago, and like nobody knows that person.
Yeah.
But it's just like to be I feel like it mattered to me because I left Chicago on a mission. And so like to get here and actually start executing the things that I wanted.
Yeah.
It was just like a extra boost. And then from that came the Comedy Central thing, which really kind of like really put my name on the internet. I started getting like fans and followers from everywhere. A lot more bookings came in. So it just all started getting the ball rolling.
Yeah. And I would be remiss if I did not then naturally segue to the OnlyFans, which is the real reason that I even connected with you. Is your this episode is going to come out in August. This podcast episode is going to go out in August, and you are one of the comics that is being featured for the Los Angeles edition of the LMAOF comedy specials. So how fun of an idea. I mean, the fact that OnlyFans is doing like, comedy specials is just so, it's a creative use of their brand, elevating comics that, people have their preconceived notions of what OnlyFans is, but the fact that they're expanding to highlight comics is really a smart play.
Yeah, absolutely. I got an email from them. I don't know how they found me, but I was happy that they did. And I just felt like I really, really like that set that I did with them. I'm excited for it to come out. It was very raw. It was very it was not a typical set that it's not a set that I would do like on Comedy Central. It was very raw.
Yeah.
And I love that I got to do that. And now that I have my OnlyFans channel, I'm definitely utilizing that more to just like showcase more behind the scenes, different elements of myself, because I don't want to oversaturate my Twitter or my Instagram. So it's like the people who come to my OnlyFans, they really get to see like the day-to-day things that I'm doing, and like me getting like, these are the outfit options for my audition, and I'm just like the little small things. And so I really like it. I can't wait for it to drop. Everybody over there was extremely nice and supportive. And I don't know. I think it was just really, I don't know. I think maybe because it was like OnlyFans, I just was like, oh, I'm gonna let loose.
Yeah.
And I did let loose, and I'm really excited for it to come out. Like, I was excited for my Comedy Central one. That was more of like a political based set, which is not typically my humor. This isn't typically my humor. Yeah, I kind of keep it kind of mainstream, kind of clean a little bit, but this one got dirty. It was I got a little nasty, and I'm like, yeah, this is where it's at. And even from piggybacking off of that, I created my own monthly showcase in LA called Dirty Sets. I have comedians come. I play some icebreaker games with the crowd, ask them some little naughty questions, pass out some like massage oils for prizes, and then like I have the comedians come, and the comedians they let loose. It's not a typical set that you'll see like, oh, like we're working on our 5 minutes for Jimmy Fallon. No, it's not that set.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, let me tell you about the time like I did this random wild ass thing that I've never talked about on stage. So I love the freedom of that show. And so I created that just I had so much fun with this one. I was like, comedians don't have a space where they can just say whatever the fuck they want to say sometimes. You know, we do live in the parameters, especially being a female. It's like, oh, here she goes talking about sex. It's like, yeah, I'm a female in my 30s. I fuck. So like, you know, the first thing people want to say online is like, that's what she's leaning on. I'm like, baby, I got hours of content online that has nothing to do with sex, but they hear one sexual innuendo and they're just like, that's what she talks about. And so with this space, I was like, I just wanted people to feel like sex positive, sexually liberated, or whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I have to ask you about being a guest on Abbott Elementary, because it is one of my favorite shows, and I did the Warner Brothers studio tour. This was all before the strike, and got to see like the backdrop of the front of the elementary school, and I was just the biggest nerd about getting to watch that. So how was that, and was that a super competitive audition process, or did you get tapped on the shoulder?
The audition came through. I auditioned. I actually hired my acting coach to do that audition. And like again, this is crazy. I hired my acting coach to do the audition. After I did the audition, I sent it to my agent and I said, I'm pretty sure I booked this. It's like anything I say, I'm pretty sure I booked. I usually book. And so I was like, I'm pretty sure I booked this. Didn't book it. And someone else booked it. She got COVID. They called me the night before. And I had to be on set the next morning. And so I was really fortunate. I had met Quinta a couple of times before, but it was really nice to get to actually work with her. And she's very, very sweet. I remember it's so funny because being a stand-up comedian for 12 years, every role I've ever done on TV has been dramatic. I was like, oh, I'm doing Abbott Elementary, the biggest comedy on TV right now. I get to be funny. They're like, no, you're going to make Quinta cry. You a bitch. I'm like, all right, let's get to it. And I remember like one take we did, and like as soon as they said cut, I was like, I am so sorry. She was like, no, that's what we hired you for. She's like, but I felt it. And I was, because I literally like, I don't know where I felt like I was talking to like my worst enemy. I was like, damn, I really dug deep for that. I was like, the director came up, it was a female. She was like, do you want to like take a break, take a breather? I was like, no, that's what y'all paid me to be here for. Let's go. Let's keep running it. Y'all want me to be mean? Let's go. So it was fun. It was very quick. Usually I'm used to being on set like 12 hours a day. That was like maybe 6 hours. And then it was dope because I'm also friends with Janelle James, who plays the principal. And so like I text Janelle, I'm on set. And the cool part about it was the character that I played is a dispatcher. And my mother she retired as a 911 dispatcher. And so like when I took a picture in the uniform and stuff, I sent it to my mom. I was like, I look like you. Yeah. That was cute.
Do you ever step back and reflect on like these kind of historic things that you're getting to do? Like I bet Elementary is is so groundbreaking in ways. OnlyFans TV, these comedy specials is groundbreaking. Comedy Central, being able to do a special with Comedy Central is like, that's a point of pride for people. I mean, do you allow yourself to reflect that all of this hard work that you've done has allowed you to be, with these really cool accomplishments?
I have to remind myself to like live in the moment sometimes, because I'm very much forward thinking. So once something's done, I'm like, what's next?
Yeah.
Like that was cool. What's next? But I definitely try to like live in gratitude. I have my moments. Where I'm just like, dang, this is crazy. I said I was gonna do this and I'm really doing this. This is wild. That's crazy.
Yeah.
So I definitely have those moments.
Okay. I am very much right with you. I don't sit and reflect. I just, what's next forward looking. So you must know whatever is next that's on your horizon. Is there anything that's next that you can share with your fans?
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago I was flown out to Vegas. They are rebooting Comic View, BET's Comic View.
Nice.
Where like some more was discovered. Bruce was on there, Kevin Hart was on there, Mike Epps was on there, Bernie Mac. All those people were on Comic View. And so Kevin Hart is executive producing it and Mike Epps is hosting it. And yeah, they called and said, does Brandi want to do this? And Brandi said yes. So I will be on the reboot of Comic View, and I'm really excited for that, because I feel like, especially for like people my age and just like a little older, it's a very nostalgic thing. And I feel like there's not a lot of platforms for just like Black comedians to be showcased, like specifically us.
Yeah.
So like Mike Epps said during my taping, he was like, this is where you got your household names. This is where like the Moniques came from. This is where the Adele Givens came from. These are where they came from. Yeah. And so really happy. They did not pick a lot of females, and I was one of them, and I am ready for the world to see. And so, we're just gonna go from there. I'm ready. And then I'm touring right now. I'm headlining my own shows right now, and so that's it's beautiful.
Yeah. Is Austin gonna see you, or has Austin seen you?
Austin has seen me. I actually filmed that Comedy Central feature in Austin. That was my first time there. Loved it. And then I did Afrotech last November in Austin. Loved that as well. But definitely want to come back. I'll be in Dallas at the end of August, but I do want to do a Texas run and get back to Austin. They have really good food. The weather's great. Yeah, I like Austin. I got a couple people out there too. So I'm like, yeah.
Well, hopefully you'll be here for.
I want to go there and do like a whole like run,
Oh, for sure. I mean, Houston between.
Well, I mean, just specifically in Austin, like I like to go to the cities and just like, I don't just do one night. I want to like hang around. What y'all doing? Where y'all at? What's the comedy scene like out here? So just like I'm headlining New York Wine Cellar August 12th, and I'm spending a week in New York, just kind of kick around,
you didn't like that much.
Huh?
The city you didn't like enough to live there, but
you know what? I did not like New York until I started getting flown out by a network. And it's a different experience. You getting black car service, you ain't got to deal with the train. They put you up in a nice high rise, but like me on my own budget, no, get me out of here.
That is the way to do it.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, no, you could tell. I mean, there's so many clubs here in Austin now that it's, easy to get picked. And Helium is has the Cap City Comedy Club. And then of course there's Rogan's Mothership Club is those I'd say the second biggest club. But maybe you're ready for the theater shows now.
I mean, who knows? I do not limit myself. Let's see.
Yeah, it's a big comedy scene, so you need to get your manager, publicist on it. Get them to book you.
I gotta come when it's not so hot, but I'm like November is good
for me. October, yeah. November's safe. November to March, you're generally safe. Yeah.
I love honesty.
Well, this has been spectacular. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want people to know about you?
That's it. That's about it. I think I spilled all the beans.
You're very forthcoming with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have an closing question that pairs with my icebreaker from earlier, and that is one word to describe your future.
Like literally, I didn't even think of like the first word that popped into my head, and I didn't even think about this, but I was gonna skip over it. But I'm gonna just say it's prominent. That was the first word that popped into my head, like literally when you said that.
Yeah. No, you're definitely you've laid out all the cards. You've made your plans. You've chased your dream.
It's I just feel like and I hate to be like I'm a super like person who like believes in like you attract the things that you are. And so like for me it's just if it doesn't work out this way, it'll work out in a way that's better for me. You know, so I never get down in the dumps or anything like that. When people ask me for comedy advice, it's such a weird thing to me. I don't give it to them. And they're just like, it's like, well, why? I'm like, if you ask me about a specific thing, like how do you get into college, is how you get into that. But they're like, oh, I'm a new comedian. You got any advice? Like, no, I don't, because I didn't take any advice. I just did the shit that felt good. If it didn't feel good, I didn't do it. And so I don't give people advice because I know that everybody's route is different.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, that is a wrap on Comedy Wham presents Brandi Denise. Tell us where we can find you on social media and your upcoming projects.
You can find me on OnlyFans at Brandi Denise Comedy. You can also find me on Instagram at Brandi Denise Boyd.
Okay, great. Well, we hope you've enjoyed learning about how Brandi Denise got to be the comedic genius. Can I say it?
You can say that. That's
that you heard today just as much as I have. This has been Comedy Wham presents Brandi Denise. I'm Valerie, and that's been funny. Thank you, Brandi.
Thank you, Valerie.